guys, what is up? It is Austin here, bringing you guys the very first episode of the brand new podcast series I promised that I'd be starting. So if you guys are new to the podcast and you're not really familiar with the channel, I run a YouTube channel that has been really going strong with pretty much regularly streaming for about the past year and a half, 2 years. I've had the channel for a lot longer, but one thing I've always wanted to do is to start my own podcast, and sports is something I'm really passionate about, mostly NFL. And I wanted to start off with an NFL focused podcast. Maybe we'll delve into other sports, but mainly the NFL and, just talking about football, because it's something that I promised my subscribers. Once we hit 2,100 subscribers, I would make it a weekly series. Now, there's probably going to be interruptions from my cats a million times, as you could probably see one of their shadows just walked by. This is going to improve as it goes forward. This inaugural episode is because I want to do it this season, but I'm still setting up getting an actual layout for the stream, and then we'll have guests on in the future. I already have some planned out that I want to have. You guys know I was a part of a podcast for a while called The Neutral Zone with a bunch of my friends, and we talked about sports, and it was a great time. We would talk about all NFL things, and I'm going to have some of those boys on this podcast eventually, but it's not going to be like a regular thing, like every single time I record, I'm going to be doing with everybody. But, I made some notes, and basically we're going to start with a very simple structure to this podcast. I'm going to talk about things that happened in the NFL this past week, week one, and then I'm going to give my week two predictions. And then for the next episode, I'll talk about what I got right and wrong about week two, and then we'll predict week three, and we're just going to keep it going like that. And I'm really excited for it, and we're just going to get straight into it. So I had a couple of week one takeaways. I actually wrote some notes for things I wanted to talk about from week one that I actually thought were relatively interesting. The first thing I want to talk about, obviously, because I'm a Bengals fan, and there's the first interruption for one of my cats right below me. But one of the first things I wanted to talk about is the game that Cincinnati had last week against Cleveland on the road in Cleveland to open the season. A game that they historically struggle with, in my opinion. I've watched every Bengals game probably since I was about 10 years old. When I mean every single game, I mean every single game. Even when we only won 2 games in 2019, I watched every damn game. And it was painful, but I'm always there to watch my guys. So trust me when I say when I get nervous about them playing in Cleveland, especially week one, I'm reminded of the 24-3 beatdown the Browns gave us a couple years ago. But before this game, the Bengals were on a 3-game winning streak against Cleveland. They'd kind of silenced a lot of narratives. You always hear the narrative that Joe Burrow can't play well against them. And even in the losses before, he did. There was that stat he's 1-5 against the Browns. And now, after this past game that happened last week, the Bengals are on a 4-game run against the Browns. They've beaten the Browns 4 times in a row. And what was really nice about this one is this is the kind of game that the Bengals just don't usually win. These really tight, gritty games where the offenses aren't showing out and it's all on the defense. Where, the offense for Cleveland had no run game. Joe Flacco threw for about 300 yards, but the 2 costly interceptions were, honestly, I think one of them, the last one, really isn't his fault. I mean, it hit his receiver directly in the hands and just popped up, and then DJ Turner made a great play on it. But the first one, it was kind of low and off to the side, and Judy had to dive for it, and then, he tips it up again, and it gets intercepted. And, Joe Burrow played a very conservative game. He had a couple deep shots, and the thing that really annoys me is everyone says, "Oh, Joe Burrow didn't throw a pass over 15 yards." That's not true. He threw a couple of them, except Jamar Chase just dropped one on the boundary. Another one, T. Higgins had a chance, and it don't really count as a drop, but he did get hands on it. So those who didn't watch the game are just going to say there was a dink and dunk game where he did take a couple of shots, but this is one of those games where Joe Burrow had to manage the game, right? I'm sorry, I'm also trying to fix my goddamn hair. But he had to manage the game, and he did a great job at that. He didn't force any really bad passes. There was only one ball that I thought maybe could have been picked on an in-breaking route to Gesicki. And, he did miss a couple of reads. On that in-breaking route to Gesicki has Jamar Chase running wide open for a touchdown that's ironically not 15 yards down the field. It was a 2-yard in route, but there was nobody in front of him. No one was going to stop him. And he missed, that read, but he also threw the 1 touchdown, and Noah Fant, he had barely over 100 yards, but no turnovers, which in my opinion is what saved the game, because the Bengals offense in the second half only had 7 yards of total offense, which is absolutely insane, but they managed to win. Again, week one, Cincinnati never plays up to their potential, and not only did they underperform, but they actually fucking won. So they have that 1-0 record heading into week 2, which is really exciting for a Bengals fan. We've lost every single opening game since 2021, I think, where we beat Minnesota in a game that you could argue we probably did not deserve to win that game either. So it's very interesting to see the takes on Twitter. You know, last year Joe Burrow was throwing like 350 yards a game. He had a couple games where he threw over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, and we still lost. Those Ravens games hurt my soul. And all I kept hearing was, they're not winning, so his stats do not matter. And now he wins while putting up lower stats from managing the game, and everyone's like, oh, he's dog shit. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's terrible. And, you know, those takes just kind of drive me absolutely fucking crazy. Because no one's consistent about it anymore. The Joe Burrow hate is just, it's weird. It's really, really weird. You know, a guy who can perform to the highest of highs when he needs to, and can also manage the game when he has to. It's weird, man. It's really weird to see the takes I've been seeing. But, you know, the Bengals win. The defense was amazing. You know, I can't end this little segment without talking about how great the defense was. They held the Browns to one of the worst rushing performances ever. I mean, it was fantastic. And in the second half, they did get bailed out by a missed field goal and a missed extra point, but they did have some fantastic drives. And what I was really excited about was Shamar Stewart looked like a fucking home run pick. Now, he didn't get any solo sacks, I believe, but he had some really great run-stopping plays, and he applied a lot of pressures. And it's really nice to see that Trey Hendrickson actually has a duo that might actually be pretty solid. So that's really exciting. In the secondary, they didn't play great, but they played opportunistic. Both those passes that were tipped into the air, they ended up being fantastically played. So shout-outs to them. Now, a couple other things I want to talk about. One person I wanted to, focus on a little bit was Justin Fields. I think because they lost, not as many people are talking about how amazing that he actually was in that game. Justin Fields was fantastic. He was hitting some downfield shots while also using his legs. He had an over-the-shoulder throw to Garrett Wilson. He should have had another passing touchdown, but Garrett Wilson went down at the 1. But if the Jets can keep that connection going forward between the two of them, they are destined for great things, because Justin Fields looked amazing, man. It was so great to see. And Garrett Wilson looked great as well, aside from the game-ending drop that he had. So, me as someone who is a bit of a Justin Fields defender, especially because I live in Wisconsin, no one around here likes Justin Fields, but I love Justin Fields because, he went to Ohio State, and, it was nice to see him perform well. So speaking of Wisconsin, we got to talk about the Packers, because you guys know me. Well, for those of you who do know me, I'm not like a diehard Packers fan. I am a Bengals fan. But I also have Packers merch. I'm actually more of a Milwaukee Bucks fan than a Packers fan. I love watching the Bucks. I love Giannis. But, I have a Jordan Love jersey. I am someone who was actually really high on Jordan Love. You can check my tweets on Twitter from when Jordan Love first started for the Packers. I said that he was going to be a star. I believed in him. I thought he was going to be great. I had to convince my girlfriend and her family that Jordan Love was going to be a really good starting quarterback. And what do you know? He is. He has, this weird tendency, I feel like, for one quarter of every game he plays where he just doesn't read the field. Against the Lions, he was great opening the game, and then in the second half, he almost put the Lions back in the game. He threw back-to-back, should have been interceptions. One was dropped, the other one was intercepted, but he got bailed out by an offensive penalty. He just has a couple plays a game where you just wonder, dude, what the fuck are you seeing? And the time I'm recording this, it is Thursday, so tonight is the Packers-Commanders game, which I will be watching. I'm actually going to go to a friend's house to watch a bit of it for the first half before heading home, so should be interesting. I'm really interested to see how Jordan Love's going to perform in the lights against one of my other favorite quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels, who I said one of my most infamous takes was that he should have been drafted over Caleb Williams, and he's the best quarterback out of that class. I still believe that. I'm still going to die on that hill, but I'm really interested for the game tonight, Washington versus Green Bay. I predicted Green Bay to win, spoiler alert, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Now, the last two things I want to talk about, one I'm just going to kind of go over real quickly before I get to my picks for next week, is Bryce Young. His seeming regression that he had, I'm just going to come out and say he looked awful, man. He looked terrible. And I feel so bad about saying this because I'm a huge Bryce Young fan. Seeing his turnaround last year was just, it was so wholesome. Bryce Young, I want him to be good so badly, solely because he looks like a great guy. He seems like a great guy. He's just someone you want to root for. But he was just not reading the field, man. He threw one interception. He might have thrown two, actually. I can't remember. But I know he almost threw another one that went right through a defender's hands. He's just not seeing the field well. I don't know if it's because he's a slow processor of the field, maybe it was a little confusing. But the Jaguars defense, cross my fingers since Cincinnati's playing them next weekend. They don't seem like they have the most intimidating defense. But Bryce Young really struggled. I know the Carolina situation isn't the greatest, but he has weapons there. It's not like he has nothing to work with. And he played great at the end of last year, so the weapons excuse is kind of falling apart for me. But I really, really hope Bryce Young does get it together because I'm a big fan of his. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, which is a very heated conversation I've noticed, a very heated debate online, is the MVP. And really, it's more so just a debate between these two quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. Now, you'd think from my jersey that I would hate Lamar Jackson, which couldn't be further from the truth. I'm actually a Lamar Jackson fan. I just hate that he plays for the Ravens. But I respect the hell out of Lamar Jackson. He's a great player, and he's one of the best players of this generation. He's going to go down as one of the best players in the NFL, like history. He's that good. And Josh Allen's probably on that same trajectory. Now, the Ravens-Bills game, for those who didn't watch it, the Ravens had this game in the bag. They were up 40-25 with 5 minutes left, and they choked. And they choked hard. The Bills got a score. The Ravens fumbled the ball. Derrick Henry fumbled the ball. The Bills got another score, missed the 2-point to tie it, and the Ravens went 3 and out, decided not to go for it on 4th and short with one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the league's history. And then, of course, the Bills won the game. A lot of people use this as like Josh Allen's like magnum opus for being the best quarterback in the league because he threw for 250 yards in the 4th quarter. Honestly, this is my hot take. This is a take I know nobody agrees with me on, but I think that game does not prove anything about Josh Allen over Lamar. My opinion for Josh Allen doesn't change. He's still a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Lamar Jackson, in my opinion, is still better. The reason why I say that is Lamar didn't do anything wrong. His team just absolutely sold on him. Derrick Henry fumbled. He threw the proper pass on 3rd down. Gets it to 4th and short. And I'm sure Lamar probably wanted to go for it considering, Harbaugh went for it on his own side of the field against the Chiefs at one point in time. So Lamar played amazing in that game, in my opinion. Josh only got those opportunities because of the Ravens' inability to execute. Now, Josh capitalized on those for sure. But saying Josh Allen was like the MVP of that game, I think, is just underselling what his defense did for him. Like, yes, the Ravens put up 40 points, but in crunch time, they forced a fumble. They forced a 3 and out. They got him the ball back multiple times in crucial situations where if they don't do that, Josh Allen never even gets the chance. He never even gets the chance to put up those numbers. And one of those touchdowns was the luckiest thing I've ever seen, going through a receiver's hands, landing in one behind them. Like, it was crazy. Now, I'm not saying this to just dog on Josh Allen, but it just doesn't change my opinion on where I stand between Lamar versus Josh. I think Lamar's the better quarterback, simply put. I think Lamar has maybe not the exact same arm strength. I might even argue he does because Lamar can, throw the ball as far as anybody in the league, and he can put it in some insane spots. But his mobility is better than Josh's, even though Josh has great mobility. And I think his accuracy is better than Josh's, genuinely. And I think Lamar doesn't turn the ball over nearly as much. It's close, but, Lamar last year, as a Bengals fan, I was privy to some magnificent quarterback duels in both the Ravens and Bengals games. And Lamar and Joe Burrow went band for band with each other. So I'm really excited to see the Bengals play the Ravens this year. But so far, my pick for MVP, again, we're in week 1 of the fucking season. So, it's hard to choose like a front runner for MVP after one game. It's really who I thought just had the best performance and whose team really needed them the most. So I can't give it to Josh because it was a full team effort. He wasn't like solely carrying the team. So that's why I can't have Josh Allen as my front runner for MVP. I think Geno Smith deserves a lot of recognition. Maybe not for like front runner for MVP, but I mean that man threw for damn near 400 yards for the Raiders. I mean I know they have Brock Bowers, but they don't have any weapons. They don't have like a crazy cohesive offensive system. They have a rookie running back. And yes, they're playing the Patriots, who are not a great team without Christian Gonzalez, but Geno looked amazing. So I don't really have a pick for MVP because it's, first game of the season. I'll have an MVP frontrunner probably after week 4 is what I'd say. But now, anyways, my picks for week 2. There are a lot of picks. I thought I had it on a schedule right behind me, but I just put it in the other room, which is fine because I have my phone, so I can just pull up the schedule for all the games. But starting tonight, the one I do know for sure is we have Commanders at Packers. Goodness, I cannot speak today. I apologize. But The Commanders, from what I understand, they don't have any serious injuries, and they beat the Giants week 1. Their defense did not allow the Giants to score a touchdown, which is impressive, but at the same time, I think I read a stat, the Giants have not scored a touchdown in week 1 in the Dayball era, which is crazy, because I think they actually have a good coach. I just think their team is awful. But Commanders at Packers, I have the Packers winning it. I think my official score prediction was like 27-21. I just trust the Packers at home, and with that new defense with Micah Parsons, Micah's only going to get healthier. He had limited snaps in the first game, and I think he's going to be a lot healthier, and I think he's really going to wreck this game. And as long as Jordan Love can have a good start like he did in week 1, I think if he can put up 20 points in the first half, they can kind of cruise in the second with just like 2 field goals and beat the Commanders. My guess is 27-21. Now, Giants at Cowboys. This one's pretty easy for me. I'm just going to go with the Cowboys. They actually looked pretty good in the first game of the season against Philadelphia. They lost because they didn't have an impact player on defense that really could have helped them win the game. And also because, CeeDee Lamb dropped I think it was 4 passes. It was ridiculous. But I'm going to easily take the Cowboys to blow out the Giants. I frankly, I could see this game being a murder for the Cowboys. I could see them winning it by 20 points. Seahawks at Steelers. As much as it pains me to say it, I got to pick the Steelers. I don't trust Sam Darnold. He was great last year in his 1 year where he had, Justin Jefferson, Kevin O'Connell, who I think KOC might be the best coach in the league. I'll get to that one soon, though. But he had all these weapons, Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones, and now he's in Seattle. He's got Cooper Kupp, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, and that's pretty much it. I don't think the running backs are as great as everyone says they are. I would definitely take Aaron Rodgers and that Steelers offense over them. So I got the Steelers beating them. Rams at Titans. I would love to see Cam Ward get his first win, but I don't think it's happening. I would go with the Rams. Matthew Stafford was not peak amazing week 1, but he looked a lot better than I thought he was because he had that nagging back injury throughout training camp. I thought he was going to look a lot worse than he did. He did not. He looked pretty good. He had the game-winning throw to close the game out. So give me the Rams over the Titans. Bills at Jets. As much as I want to pick Justin Fields, I got to go with the Bills. Josh Allen, for as much as it sounded like I was criticizing him, he was amazing. He was amazing in the fourth quarter when he got his opportunities late in the game. I don't think they're going to drop one to the Jets. Even if it is, at the Jets, I'm still taking the Bills to win that game. I think they'll frankly probably sweep the Jets this year. Now, Patriots at Dolphins. This was honestly one of the 2 most difficult games to choose between this week, and that's solely because the Dolphins looked awful. They looked absolutely awful against the Colts, and the Patriots didn't look much better. They put up 10 points. Drake May did almost throw for 300 yards. They threw a touchdown and an interception. I don't see the hype with Drake May like everyone else does. Last year, I think he threw, 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. This year, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. And I know people are going to say, well, if you watch the games, I do. I've watched Drake May play because I was excited for him. I see the arm strength, but I just don't think he reads the field as well as other quarterbacks do. So it's hard for me to pick the Patriots on the road in Miami when this is a must-win game for Miami. I know it is only week 2, but it is a must-win. You get a chance to right your wrongs after getting blown out by the Colts. You're at home against a team that is not that great, and the Dolphins are far more talented. Tua, Tyreek, Jalen Waddle, even on defense. They have Bradley Chubb. I believe he's still there. I hope he's still there. But, they have players. I just think they don't respect their coach, and I think that team is falling apart. So, that being said, it's so difficult to pick. I don't remember who I picked in my actual Pick'ems league. I'm going to pick the Patriots with this game to upset the Dolphins on the road because I still think Drake May is a solid quarterback. He's not terrible, and he had a lot of passing yards. So if they can just finish off some drives, I think they can beat the Dolphins. I don't know if Christian Gonzalez is going to play, but if he does, it could get ugly for Miami. Now, Jaguars at Bengals, obviously, I'm picking them every single game in the season, no matter what. Give me the Bengals. Joe Burrow is going to go out there and remind everybody that he should have won MVP last year and that he is a top 3 quarterback in this league. And he's going to put up a performance against the Jaguars, who struggled a little bit last week. They allowed the least amount of pressure I saw in the NFL, and Trevor Lawrence was he did not look good. I think he had 170 yards, touchdown, interception. Was not beautiful, right? So then after that, we got Niners at Saints. This one was a lot more difficult as well, because usually I pick the Niners, but Brock Purdy is injured. George Kittle is injured. Their receiving room is injured. So it's kind of like a tape job. But they also have Kyle Shanahan, who I just think is a better coach. And that for me is why I'm just going to pick the Niners over the Saints. Even though the Saints did look better than I thought they would last week, but they had some boneheaded moments with their head coach. I don't know what he was thinking. There were multiple instances where they should have called a timeout and to save clock. There was horrible clock management in that game on the Saints. And they're depleted talent. I believe Chris Olave is already injured, which is just sad to see. Now, Browns at Ravens. This one's pretty easy for me. I'm picking the Ravens. Lamar Jackson's not going to start season 0-2. There's no way he does that. And the Browns, that defense, they play well against us. They ain't shutting down Lamar and the Ravens. It's not happening. The Ravens, I think, are going to win this. I think this game's going to be like a 35 to 17 game. Like, it's just going to be a massacre. Bears at Lions. Where do we begin with those two teams? Both super disappointing in week 1. The Bears, an insane choke job. The Lions just got their asses beaten by Green Bay. Sorry if you can hear the creaking in the background, by the way. I have an old chair that I use. But the Lions got their asses just handed to them. The Bears should have won that game, and they choked. And it's going to be a revenge game. I know the Lions players have no love lost for Ben Johnson. They do not care about Ben Johnson. I think Amon-Ra said he was going to boo him when he walked into the stadium. So, interesting. And then the Bears, I'm just out on Caleb Williams. I've actually had this debate with my buddy Legend, I love you. I know he's really high on Caleb Williams. I just don't see the hype that everyone else does. So I'm going to pick the Lions in this game at home to beat the Bears. Because I just don't think the Lions are going to be that bad. I think they're going to take a step back, but I think they're still going to be like a 10-7 team. Broncos at Colts. Here's the thing with this game as well. The Colts looked amazing last week. I also think it's because they're playing a franchise that is also plummeting right now in Miami. I'm going to pick the Broncos. Bo Nix might have a sophomore slump, but that defense is fucking legit. Sean Payton is a better coach, in my opinion, than Shane Steichen. Well, yeah, I'd say so far. He's earned that. So I'm going to go with the Broncos in that one. Panthers at Cardinals. I'm going with the Cardinals. I love Bryce Young. I want the Panthers to be good. I hope he goes out there and proves me wrong. I hope I'm wrong about this game. But Kyler Murray, he looked pretty solid last week. I'm like sneaky kind of a Kyler fan. I don't think he's like great. He's not living up to his draft status, but I still kind of like him. And he's got some really great mobility. I think his mobility is really underrated now because of his injury, and people kind of just forgot who Kyler Murray was after that one MVP-like season he had and that collapse that he had in the playoffs. But I think Kyler's still trying to remind people how good he really is. So give me the Cardinals. They looked a lot better last week, too, than I thought they were going to, albeit against the Saints. Eagles at Chiefs. Give me the Eagles. They are going to just absolutely spank the Chiefs. I'm just kidding. It's not going to be a blowout. It'll probably be a really close game. I don't respect the way the Eagles play football. I hate the tush-push. I'm fine with it being legal. I just hate that the linemen are able to stretch over the ball before it's snapped, which is an offsides, and it's never called. Drives me crazy. The Eagles are going to beat the Chiefs. It's going to be a generational game for Chiefs hatred. I just don't think they're good enough to beat the Eagles. I don't see it. Now, Falcons at Vikings. I'm going with the Vikings at home. J.J. McCarthy at home with those weapons and with that head coach. Kevin O'Connell, to me, what he did last game was just prove to me why he's top 3, if not the best coach in the league. I watched that Bears-Vikings game. I picked the Bears. I thought they were going to win at home. And, J.J. McCarthy was his first game as a starter in the regular season. And he, was really rough. He looked horrible through the first, 2.5 quarters. He looked awful. And then he had the pick 6. The Bears were up 17-6. I'm like, this game is over. But then Caleb Williams started struggling. And in that fourth quarter, J.J. McCarthy just turned into a psychopath. And apparently he was telling teammates, quote-unquote saying, would you rather be anywhere else? While they're losing on the road against a division rival. He's a psycho, and I love that. I love that for a quarterback. I think he is going to be good. Maybe not a great quarterback, but he's going to be good. So I'm going to pick the Vikings in this game. I don't think it's going to be pretty easily. I think it'll probably be a close game, but give me the Vikings. And then for our second to last game, Monday Night Football, we have the Buccaneers at the Texans. I would go with the Bucs in this. I just think they're the better team. I think Baker Mayfield and C.J. Stroud are pretty equal as quarterbacks. I don't think C.J.'s ever had as statistically a great a year as Baker has had the last couple of years in terms of yards and touchdowns. But I think C.J. also proved last year with a shitty system and everything falling apart around him, he still led the Texans to the playoffs and still won a playoff game against Justin Herbert and the Chargers. So, yeah, give me the Bucks. Give me Baker Mayfield to win that game. I mean, not just Baker Mayfield. They have obviously Mike Evans, Emeka Ibuka looked great in the first game. So yeah, give me the Bucks. And then the last pick of the week is Chargers and Raiders. Chargers are on the road taking on the Raiders. And this might come as a shock, but I'm taking the Raiders. Geno Smith looked pretty good aside from his one interception. I know Justin Herbert looked amazing. It's a road game in Vegas, and I don't know. I'm just buying the Raiders hype this year. They have a really good head coach now, Pete Carroll. They have a really good quarterback, Geno Smith, who I think is, like, if not top 10 right on the outside, which that sounds like a knock, but we're in a really great quarterback era, you know? So Geno Smith looks good. I think Ashton Genty might have a better game this week. Maybe. Hopefully. I hope he lives up to the hype that he has. And, you know, Brock Bowers is unfair. I think both defenses leave a lot to be desired, although the Raiders played a lot better last week. So we'll see. But I'm going to go with the Raiders in that game. And that is all of my week 2 picks. We're going to wrap up the first episode. Maybe in the future, these are going to be a little bit longer once I get other people on, because we're going to have debates over players and we're going to get more in depth over them. But that concludes the first episode of the podcast. If you guys enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about the podcast series. Let me know some improvements that you'd want to see. And I need help coming up with a name. I haven't really thought of a name for the podcast yet. I'll have like a placeholder name. It's probably just going to be Ray Talk Sports episode 1 or whatever. But let me know who you want on as guests in the future. I'm eyeing a couple people for episode 2 next week. So let me know what you guys think. And, give me your honest thoughts on the podcast. And I will, let you guys know. But thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. And peace, guys.